Humans have spent thousands of years staring up into space, endeavoring to answer the question, what's out there? But of all the ways we've tried to find out, sending rockets and satellites, people and even music, what have we found? And perhaps more importantly, what are we trying to say? Hello and welcome to the Hoke Poke Pod, the show where we explore the strange and unusual.
Really? We're just two idiots poking things we don't understand.
So join us as we dare to ask the questions that nobody once answered, such as, so you want to live in space? What should you be worried about?
What happened to all of NASA's spacesuits?
And when humanity sends out samples of itself, why do we send out art? I'm Erica.
And I'm Emily.
And let's look at the way humans are out of this world.
Oh my God.
That's stupid. I think it was an obvious one. So we're finally talking about space.
I know. It's been on our list for a really long time.
We mentioned it in the very first episode. We mentioned we would come back to the idea of space.
Oh my gosh. And here we are, last episode of the
20
second
episodes
series.
Later, yeah, we finally made it.
Wow. 20 episodes.
I know.
That deserves a celebration. A celebration of a very random episode about things we found out about space.
We have tried to kind of consolidate it a little bit because obviously space is a big topic. It's a big thing. And we're looking kind of at the human elements of space.
Yes.
So the things we have done, the things we have sent out, how it impacts us directly.
Yeah.
And we'll save kind of the existential horrors of space for another episode.
That is an existential episode.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to really struggle with
That's
that
our
one.
sub-podcast about existentialism.
I mean, and on a kind of a flip side, I might cry in this one just as a heads up.
Yeah.
Because some of the concepts, I just find them really like, I don't know what it is. It gets to me. It makes me cry.
Yeah. And you've had red wine.
I've had red wine and it's we'll see how we go.
It's overwhelming. So I'd like to start us off by saying that space tourism, I found out. Well, I think we know how expensive vaguely it is. Millions and millions and billions of dollars. It's crazy how expensive it is.
I mean, it's still pretty much sci-fi, isn't it? I feel we're right on the edge of it being reality.
Well, yes. So it's an industry that is predicted to grow to $2.7 trillion in 30 years. Currently, a ticket to space costs $55 million.
Fuck.
They're aiming to get that to around $100,000 within a decade.
So they just need to shave off like what, $4.5 million?
Yeah.
Easy.
But there's two types of space travel for the average Joe.
Oh yeah, your average splashing around a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's suborbital space travel, which is where you don't go into full orbit, and the distinction between it is that you're kind of going up and down in a spacecraft.
Wait, so not going out of full orbit, does that mean you're staying within the orbit of the Earth, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're within the orbit of the Earth. So it's, suborbital. It's kind of self-explanatory, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then full orbital is astronomically, pun intended, expensive.
Fuck, that's such a good fucking pun. I should have stolen that from the beginning. Goddamn.
It is like hundreds of millions of dollars to go into full orbit. And it's possible to do because people have done it. They've gone and visited the International Space Station, the ISS. Yeah. Like up in space, and it has cost an arm and a leg. But people have done it. I don't know how people get rich enough to do that. That's a separate discussion.
That's a depressing separate discussion. I mean, and this, like, look, not to start on a bleak note, but space travel is inherently exciting and cool and an important, noble goal. And that's why sort of institutions like NASA have been historically so important and celebrated. They should be. The idea of privatized space travel is so like mind-bogglingly horrendous. And the fact that it's a reality now in our lives is fucking depressing me.
It's going to be reality in the next, they're aiming for the next decade for it to be a reality for people to be able to buy tickets to space.
Jesus.
But only, I don't know what percentage of people would be able to afford to do that. And, I guess in 100 years, maybe they're aiming that it will be $40,000 instead.
I just... And I feel like it really, I'm not to get like political, I feel like it really tarnishes the essence of what space exploration is.
Yes. What? So I guess it kind of bleeds into this. It's like, if we're willing to spend so much money, why do we care so much about going outside our bounds of Earth?
And this is kind of what I've looked into. So for this episode, I've looked into humanity's long history of searching for life out there. And we've done a few episodes on aliens, and I'm not talking about UFOs and little grey men. I'm talking about the historical times that we have tried to reach out into the cosmos and gone, hey, we're here. Is anyone out there listening? And it kind of, the first recorded instance of this being a thought process, I guess, goes back to 1820 with this mathematician named, an astronomer named Carl Friedrich Gauss. And his plan was he wanted to draw Pythagoras' theorems, like the squares and the triangle and the shapes. He wanted to draw Pythagoras' theorem on the sort of Siberian tundra. And he wanted to draw them out in lines 10 miles wide, sort of made out of strips of pine forest. Essentially make a enormous Pythagoras theorem, the idea being that you could see it from the moon. And at that time in history, in 1820, we were thought, yeah, aliens are probably on the moon.
Wow.
You know, we obviously didn't know about space travel. We didn't have ability to look out into space. And so the first planetary bodies you can see, like the moon, of course, I feel like it's so natural to think like, other people have got to be out there.
That's true. But also, just side note, what are a bunch of triangles going to mean to aliens if they were living on the moon?
This is what I find fascinating. It's this idea that throughout history, at least from kind of the early 1800s, we've been conscious of space. When we've been conscious of this idea that, well, if we exist here, surely something else exists out there. We can't be alone. Like, just statistically, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And so the question then is, well, if something is out there, how do we message them? Yeah. Because they would have evolved with such untangibly different systems and languages, and we would have no way to sort of communicate what we wanted to communicate. So how do you do that? And then this is where maths comes into it. Yeah. The idea is it's a universal truth. Yeah. Right? Like, these are systems and formulas that translate into every language, and that should therefore translate interdimensionally, like across planets, across galaxies. So Pythagoras' theorem, which is a very base, I mean, not that I fully understand it, but it's a very simple, basic mathematical concept that forms a lot of our mathematical understanding, is a universal truth. That's not something humans have invented. Maths is a fact. Like, it's observable, and it is always the same. Yes. I'm not a mathematician. If I'm getting this wrong, So the idea that the first message we would send to aliens would be a mathematical equation makes sense. We couldn't send words. They wouldn't understand language. We couldn't send a drawing of a lion because they're not going to know what the fuck a lion is. We can't. Yeah. So the first idea was to send maths, this universal symbol of intelligent life.
Interesting.
Which I find really like, what would you possibly say? So then also in sort of 1819, 1820, you have this other methods, this idea of reaching out into space and talking to aliens. This guy named Joseph Johann von Littrow, who was an Austrian astronomer with a fantastic name. And he wanted to use the Sahara Desert, and his idea would be to like dig giant trenches, fill them with water and then kerosene on top of the water and just light them up. And it would be these enormous flaming messages in the desert that you would be able to theoretically observe from space.
From space.
And the idea with that one was that because it was in the desert, you could kind of write different things every day. Yeah. And just send a whole bunch of different messages out.
I guess also the next question with that is, what are they hoping to achieve? Because, like, what if an alien race is somehow driving by it through our solar system and is like, oh, wow, look, a big flaming message. Let's go. These people clearly want to be taken over. Let's go populate their planet. Like, can you imagine?
I mean, true, I guess. And
misinterpretation.
But I think that's what is so striking about, to me, what I find really, just we are searching constantly for life outside of us. Yeah. And I think the idea of, well, what if it was hostile? What if it was bad? What if it was deadly? I think that's secondary to the fact that, it can't just be us. That's such a universal feeling. And the fact that humankind throughout our history have worked together to be like, something else has to be out there. Yeah. and we keep trying to find it, and we keep trying to figuring it out, and we keep trying to say, well, like, and these messages that we continually want to send are always of, they're never, aggressive or violent. It's always peace, or this is who we are, or it's just a message, just an acknowledgement that there is something else out there.
Can you imagine if there was just like a recording on repeat going, do not come to planet Earth or we will destroy you.
Which might be the reality, but at least, I mean, I'm not to get too like, I don't want to get like serious on this podcast, but I feel like especially nowadays and always, I guess, through history, there's this like impending feeling that humanity sucks a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of evidence for that.
Yeah.
People can be really cruel to each other and really harsh and horrible. And so I find it really fascinating and touching that when it comes to these universal goals, like talking to aliens or going out into space, that, I don't know, that is put aside. Like, our instinct is always to be friendly.
Yeah.
Our instinct is always to say, hey, we're here to, like, welcome. This is us. We want to meet you. Yeah. The fact that that is our first universal instinct as a planet, I think speaks volumes for the innateness of humans. And I think there's so much to that. And I don't know if it's realistic. I don't think we're ever going to maybe find contact with aliens. No. But it's, I don't know, it's so nice.
It is nice because there are probably planets and species out there somewhere in the universe that are like, all we have to do is just make sure no one knows we're here. And we're just like, let's just put out calls. Because I think, don't they, I mean, you might have researched this, but don't they, like from Earth, we emit radio signals to try and see.
Constantly.
So we are sending ourselves out there. We're sending out
so much stuff. And that's what I'm saying. This stuff was all from the 1800s before we had radios and these solid ways of contacting people. But we kept trying. Nikola Tesla even got involved. He thought his Tesla coil might have a way to send out stuff. This particularly sort of wacky idea from 1860 came by this French inventor named Charles Cross. And his idea was we just get a giant mirror. He was convinced there were Martians. Yeah. People on Mars. And his idea was if we just build a huge mirror, we can reflect the sun and like a child playing with a magnifying glass, like we can burn a message into the surface of Mars for the aliens. And he took that to the French government and asked for funding, and naturally they rejected it.
Well, that's good.
It's such a crazy idea. Like, why you think possibly, A, that would be feasible, and B, that would be a good way to send a message. Like, if aliens found Earth and then just, like, scorched, like, half of the, like, northern hemisphere with a message being like, hey, I don't really... I think he was a bit misguided.
I think that message could be easily misinterpreted as this is a threat and we're going to get you, scorching your planet.
We've burned like half your planet. Yeah. In an attempt to say hi.
It's a bit misguided.
It's a little misguided.
Yeah. Come up with some better ideas.
Exactly. But there were some interesting ideas. And then, so in the 1900s, there was something called the Guzman Prize, which was pioneered by this woman named Clara Gagaut, I think. And so she basically said, I will give 100,000 francs to the first person to contact another planet and receive a response.
Wow.
But a fun stipulation to this, it can't be Mars. She thought too easy.
Right.
She thought 1900s, we're going to make contact with Mars any day now, so it's got to be another planet. And obviously this prize was never awarded because we haven't made contacts with. But they kind of 5 years later in 1905, they kind of said, well, we'll give the prize to whoever makes the most sort of the biggest breakthrough in astronomy. Yeah. And it was given to the Apollo 11 astronauts.
Oh, wow.
It was kept up in 1969. That promise was saved for 69 years and given to the Apollo 11 crew. 100,000 francs.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Isn't that lovely?
Wouldn't they have already been paid, like, a lot?
They're fine. Like, they didn't need the money, but it's just, I don't know, this idea, this 69-year-old promise that this woman left in her will.
Yeah, was carried through.
And we recognize, hey, we're probably not going to make contact with aliens anytime soon, but this was a really significant event, and I just find this also touching.
Yeah, that is touching. Are you starting to tear up now?
I don't know what it is. It's just like the wine, or it's just the idea that like humans have been so human
Yeah.
forever. And I just, ugh.
I think it gets to the core of who we are. That's probably
really think it
why.
does.
Yeah. It is existential in a way. Maybe this is your response to the existential.
It's like, yeah, it's like there's probably a word for this. It's like existential, but like introspective. It's like not looking at the universe, but it's sort of looking at like what makes up us.
Yes.
Like how do we perceive ourselves and what image are we projecting out
Yes.
of humanity? And it's such a welcoming, lovely image.
It is. And I think they sent out albums and stuff. Like they put music on. Do you know what the modern?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
And then this is interesting. Obviously, once we sort of head into the modern era,
Yeah.
the messages out into space get more frequent and more varied, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. At this point, essentially anyone can send a message out into space.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of how good our radio tech has gotten. But this idea of sending a universal message out into space, that was realized, the first actual case of that, starts in 1974 with the Arecibo message.
Okay. Yeah.
This was a huge satellite dish. The kind of first time we had the technology where we could send a really long distance radio signal. And it was sent from Puerto Rico to a cluster of stars 25,000 light years away.
That's a long time away.
It's a huge amount of time. And I looked it up, and it's like the calculations are immensely complicated.
Yeah.
But essentially, for every 1 light year, it's the equivalent to about 35,000 Earth years.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I can't do the math. So 25,000 light years is a long way.
Yeah.
But what we decided to send, it had to be simple. It had to be translatable through radio waves. So it had to be in kind of more binary code, essentially.
Yeah.
And we created a binary picture. And you can look it up.
Right.
We'll post it on the website. It's a binary figure of a stick figure, a double helix DNA strand, a carbon atom, and a telescope.
Huh.
They're the 4 images that we said, like, this is us. This is what we're sending out. Isn't that cool? I would give anything to be on the team that gets to decide.
Yeah.
How do we send this message out? And they're kind of beautiful. Like, that message is still going.
Yeah.
It's not even 1 light year out yet.
Yeah.
That message is going to be going until probably the end of the Earth, the end of humanity, the end of us.
I know.
And the kind of ironic beauty of it is that by the time it actually reaches the star system we sent it to, the star system's not going to be there. Like, because it's...
dear.
So I can't put into words.
We're a bit late.
But we have no other way to send a message out that far. And it's just this... And obviously these actual times we've sent messages out, obviously it's a lot more about checking that we have the capacity to do it. People aren't realistically expecting responses or to reach alien life.
Yeah.
But just the fact that we're so hopeful about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me so excited. But yes, anyway, your question was, what is the most recent message we've sent out?
Yes.
I mean, it gets kind of depressing. The further into late stage capitalism we get. Doritos sent out like an ad for Doritos, I think back in like just fucking so depressing.
They're going to start a shop in the sky in the universe, apparently. Doritos.
It's a publicity stunt, but really, I don't want aliens to know about Doritos. Like, it's the first thing. I don't want an alien to get an ad. Isn't that just making you like? That's making me so fucking mad and depressed simultaneously.
Commercialism out in space. What are they going to do? Eat Doritos in space? It will. The vacuum will probably just like explode the Dorito. It's going to be useless.
If the first thing an alien gets is a fucking Dorito commercial, I will just
also, very cruel, because by the time the message about the Doritos gets there, we're probably not even going to exist anymore. So therefore, they're not going to be
able to get to Doritos
unless there's a packet of Doritos on one of the ships that are out.
Look, as far as I know, we haven't sent Doritos out into space. But in terms of the official, and I'm saying NASA official space station certified records of Earth. Yeah. The most recent one, and I thought we'd kind of updated it since, but the most recent one was actually the 1977.
Oh, okay.
Voyager 1 and 2. And the reason for this is just because it takes such a long time for these things to go.
Even to get out of our solar system, it takes a really long time.
So there's really no point in sending a new one out every 10 years because the one from the 70s is going to be going forever.
Yeah.
So it was the 1977 Voyager 1 and 2 were launched. And these were sent out, and pretty much the goal was for them to just go forever.
Yeah.
Until they get intercepted by something.
Yeah.
Is the hope. And what we included on it, in terms of a reflection of who sent it, are these things called the golden records.
Yeah.
So there's one on each Voyager. They're the same record, though. And the contents of the records were selected by a committee in NASA. The idea was to assemble 115 images, sounds, and music together that represents us.
Yeah.
So 115 items, essentially.
Yeah.
And so what they picked and what they chose is so interesting to me. They included animal sounds.
Yeah.
They included the things like images of waves and trees and buildings. They added, I think, 55 different ways to say hello in different languages.
Yeah.
But I think what's the most special to me is that they sent music.
Yeah.
They sent.
I love that so much.
And the music they sent was fascinating. They got a bunch of different music from different countries. And this is all available on YouTube as well. I will post a link on our website.
Yes.
But you can go and listen to the golden record, this snapshot of what humanity is.
That's
for
so
aliens,
cool.
the first thing they see of foreign life is this, and there are some gorgeous tracks on it. Like there's Johnny Be Good is on it, but there's also these two gorgeous Australian songs, Aboriginal Australian songs. And you can look up the songs tell a story and these gorgeous and it's the whole track. I think is it just I don't know I don't have words for it. I just find it so remarkable that we have this opportunity to send a little capsule into space. And it will probably never reach anyone, but we still spend millions and millions of dollars to do it. And what do we put in it? Music. Like,
I love that. But like how, and we have no way of knowing whether if it reaches anyone, whether they would have technology to even understand, like, what did we send, a CD? I don't know. Like they'd be like, what's this?
Record, a vinyl.
Like I feel like, okay, I just thought of this. If we suddenly, if a giant, I don't know, little capsule, that alien capsule like entered the atmosphere, I feel like it would get shot down. Like even if it had little bits of music and like goobada-boo-boo-doo, like alien sounds.
Alien tracks.
Alien tracks. I feel like the world would go nuts. Like it's interesting. What would happen here if that happened here, I wonder.
And I mean, that's it's impossible to speculate because we just don't know. And obviously, if we ever did receive anything, it would be so foreign, and it would But at the same time, we're kind of doing that with our own history.
Yeah, and
you look at some of the archaeological kind of processes we go through. You know, we find I think there's this incredible thing where they found a pot from BC, thousands of years ago, and in the exact right way this pot had been made, it had picked up like an audio recording. Because the lines of like this, I saw this on a documentary years ago, so I probably have to fact check it. But like the lines of like this one line in which the potter had touched it, had basically accidentally made a vinyl record for like a few seconds.
That's so cool.
And so we have this recording from thousands of years ago, and you know, it obviously took us thousands of years to find have the technology to be able to decode it. Yeah. And here we are trying to get these glimpses of not even alien life, our life of humans. Yeah. And that feels so foreign and so alien and so distant from us now. It's almost impossible to comprehend what an actual alien sort of message would look like or how you'd even begin to decode that.
That's true.
But the fact that we keep trying, we've been trying for hundreds of years. I like it.
We keep trying and we keep sending people out.
And we send people out
to
space.
Because that brings us to the next section, which is a bit less existential and more like, oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, good. Let's take us back down to earth a little bit.
Take us back. So, fun fact is that, I mean, I didn't know this. The International Space Station has been continuously occupied for over 20 years. Okay. Obviously not by the same people. Yes. But it has been continuously occupied. So it has hosted 241 crew and a few tourists from 19 countries.
Fucks me up.
Crazy.
Do you know when these tourists went? Because
I don't, because I knew if I looked it up, you'd just get angry.
That's fair.
If I was like, it's like Dave from like the US in 2014.
It's going to be Dave, like the oil oligarch from 2014. He's a trust fund kid, and he's like, it's gonna piss me fuck off.
Yep. So moving on.
Yes.
That accounts for 43% of all the people who have ever traveled in space.
Jesus, I didn't know that.
I know. So I think, what was the number? Overall, in the entirety of history that we know of, only about, I think it was 570 human beings have traveled in space. I actually thought the number was less than that, I have to say.
But I guess a lot of people forget that. Yeah, because when you think about it, that's from the 60s. So that's been, watch me do maths, 70 years?
Yeah.
500 people in 70 years. That's a fair amount.
Yeah. It is a fair amount, which is why I find it so interesting that NASA only has 4 spacesuits that are flight ready.
Wait,
at the
really?
moment. Yep.
Wait. Is
So,
that, like, on purpose?
well, no, probably.
Do they need help?
Well, if you got money to donate to them, I suppose. So spacesuits back in the 70s cost $20 million each to manufacture. That's in the 70s. So now that's $150 million each spacesuit.
Oh my God.
Because I read this article that was like, think of them in terms of that they're a spacecraft. They're not just something you wear to work. Like they protect an astronaut from the vacuum of space, from radiation coming from the sun, and it has to protect against fast traveling particles that are traveling up to 18,000 miles an hour.
Yeah,
that could get into the suit. They provide oxygen, communications, and everything else that a human needs to survive, and it's all in one little spacecraft.
Isn't it just fucked? You said this wasn't going to be existential, but I'm just having a moment now where I'm just like, we did that. We figured all that out.
We figured that out. Yeah, I went through this too.
I'm not okay.
Okay, yeah, this is existential. Apologies. False alarm. So, if you were excited for the existentialism, then it's coming. They only have 4 flight-ready suits. A bunch were destroyed over time. Obviously, there were aircrafts that got burned up, and there were some ground accidents as well. So they got destroyed. And yeah, I just never thought of that where, they can't just manufacture another one because it costs so much money and so much time to make.
Yeah.
They can't just do it straight away. So with that in mind, let's say you want to go live in space. You are a multi-billionaire person. You've got a big family and you want to go live in space. You can't take all of them because there's only 4 spacesuits. Sorry about that.
Poor little Patricia's left behind.
You have to stay on Earth, you peasant. So if you want to live in space,
which I do,
there are a few things that you should know about first.
I would think so. I would think maybe there's a few things I should know about.
If you're another common Joe, not an astronaut, but you're like, hey, I want to go live in a house in space.
Yeah.
Look, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a reality at some point in the next few hundred years. Billionaires going and living in space. So in my research, I found out that out of the millions of things that happen in the universe, astronauts reported that it was hard for them to sleep in the space station because the cosmic rays were disrupting their sleep because they were like light that was like passing through space and it was disrupting them. So you're not going to be able to sleep, which is a problem.
Like, do they mean like, is it literal light? I mean, no.
It's like blinding light.
It's like strobing in space.
Yeah. It's like cosmic rays that just come from all over space. They come from outside the solar system as well. I'm not a scientist. It's some kind of matter from the universe. Oh my God, don't even quote me on that. But these cosmic rays can cause a myriad of other health issues spanning from radiation poisoning, cancer to degenerative diseases. You deal with that.
Astronauts?
Yep.
Or is this long term? This is if you stayed for a while.
This is if you decided to like live in space. Okay. I think even if you went to space, I think anyone who goes to space gets exposed to this. It's a risk.
I mean, there's a lot of radiation up there.
Yeah, because we're protected by our atmosphere. Yeah, so like naturally. Cosmic rays don't really affect us here because it's like we're on Earth. The other thing is that you need to know if you want to go live on your own space station, you will need to constantly exercise up to 2.5 hours a day in order to not lose in order to not lose muscle or bone density, because if you lose that, you are effed. You are not going to be able to do anything. You'll be so weak. Even if you wanted to come back down to earth, like you're so weak you can't.
Well,
you're not going to be able to use the controls because there's no gravity.
That's gravity, right? Because I guess we forget how much energy is expended just sitting up and walking around and going to the whatever. Yeah, true. I guess
I read that
not using it.
Exactly. I read that astronauts who spent an extended amount of time in space, when they came back, they had a lot of back issues and they had to get used to being around gravity, and they would drop things a lot.
Hold up their own body mass again.
Yes. Jesus. And they would forget and drop things all the time.
Okay, question though. If you are staying in space forever in zero gravity, do you need your body mass? Like, do you need it?
Well, you still have to use controls and go to the bathroom and
yeah, that's true.
Interact with your family and eat food and stuff. So you're going to need to and food is another thing too. I mean, don't even get me started on that. I don't even know what food you would eat.
It's like paste.
Yeah, because it just would go everywhere, right? Okay, so let's say you're living in space and you're so rich and you're like, oh, I just want to enjoy space without, I just want to go feel the breeze on my face.
Naturally.
Out in the vacuum.
Don't know if that's going to be possible for you, but I admire the optimism.
It is not possible.
Yeah.
And do you know what happens to the human body if it's exposed to space?
Now, I've heard it, I don't know if this is just from, shitty movies, but do you freeze?
Yes.
Is it really cold?
Do you know how cold space is?
Very.
It is freezing. It's minus 200 degrees Celsius. And for those who aren't from down under,
that's nippy.
Minus 455 degrees Fahrenheit.
Sounds worse in Fahrenheit, doesn't it? That's colder. That's cold.
That is so, but that's not even the first thing that would happen to you.
That's not the first?
It's not the first thing. So if you want to shed your protective coil, let's say you're like, I don't need a spacesuit. I'm just gonna.
You've got the space crazies.
I've got, I've got my natural immunity to space.
My body will protect me from space.
Well, first off, if you've got
Who needs helmets?
Who needs helmets, right? Who needs that? If you've got any air in your lungs are immediately going to explode because
so take a deep breath out before you take the helmet off.
Because it's going to be your last. So your body will swell to twice its size because the oxygen, because it's a vacuum. Your eyes and your tongue, the water will evaporate off your body, so your eyes will melt off your face. And so you won't be able to see the pretty sun after all. You're just going to die. But you're not even dead yet.
You're still
You
going.
will then pass out about 90 seconds in. 10 seconds in you'll pass out. And after 90 seconds, you will be dead from asphyxiation. Let's say, okay, you've decided to just go for a little spacewalk. Your body could be floating out in space like that forever.
Well, yeah.
For millions of years, because there's nothing to really decompose your body. There's no elements really.
Of course, there's no bacteria. It's not going to, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So you better hope it's like an Icarus and you just fly into a sun. But it's not a great way to go. It is so cold that you would... Probably after your lungs collapse and you pass out and your eyes melt off your face, you would freeze into a brick, which I have seen in movies as well. Yeah, where people break off and I also heard that plenty of astronauts have said that space stinks.
I've heard this too.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
I didn't know this. Not in terms of space sucks, it was the worst thing ever. As in, it smells. Their suits, they would come back, which could be from an oxygen process. It's a scientific thing. Don't know. Don't quote me. But apparently a few people described it as a metallic sensation. It's like welding fumes, burning metal, a distinct odor of ozone. What is that?
We all know what ozone smells like. Okay.
Walnuts and brake pads, gunpowder, and burnt almond cookie. What a flavor. What an ice cream flavor that would be.
This actually sounds really good. Are you kidding? Welding fumes and smoke and burnt almonds. That sounds incredible.
But they said it's smelly. So you'd have to be dealing with this, so you're going to be stuck inside, as pretty as it is to see the stars and to see Earth and to see everything. You'd be basically, you'd have to stay inside forever.
Yeah, no taking off that spacesuit, huh?
No. You'll need that.
Okay, well then I guess that brings us to the question, would you go... Okay, if, hypothetically, Mars colony happens, they go, we need, 500 volunteers, regular Joes. We want regular Joes to give up their life on Earth and be the first to colonize Mars. Would you do it?
Hell no.
No, not at all.
No.
Why not?
Because I like Earth and I think that we're just meant to stay here. Maybe that's really conservative of me. I mean, respect to whoever wants to go out and colonize Mars.
Conservative of you. I think it's...
But I don't know how I feel about us colonizing other planets. I have a problem with colonization.
Obviously, when I say colonizing, I'm not... There's no life on Mars.
Yeah.
It's fully no life. We are going to go and inhabit it for the first time. So let's take away any of that kind of like imperialist, We're not invading a species.
Yeah. No, I think I'll just chill here. That's fine. I think...
Like, you're not even a little bit tempted?
Nah, because that's like a 6 months...
I mean, forever. I mean, you're there forever. You don't come
You'd
back.
be there forever.
Yeah.
It's a 6 month...
It's life. It's life.
Yeah. What if it's terrible?
But it doesn't matter. It's like...
Your legacy, I suppose.
You're there. Like, you're at the forefront of this new chapter in humanity. Like, you get to see that and be a part of that. And isn't that worth it?
Look, I think there's plenty to explore here.
I mean, true. Don't get me wrong. I love my life, but just like I feel like I couldn't say no.
Really? Okay, so you would go.
I feel like I couldn't say no. I feel like that would be such an insane. I would spend the rest of my life thinking about.
Yeah.
It's and like I understand it probably be shit, and we might all die in 10 years when it explodes, but I just could. I just feel like the opportunity to see that and be there and experience something new, really new, like 100% new. You got to take it, right? Right?
I think you should be at the forefront of this project.
I mean, true. I don't have any like scientific inklings though, so I don't. They probably want people with a little bit of science.
You have to go to astronaut school. Is that a thing?
Yeah, 100%. Astronauts go to astronaut school.
Yeah, I don't know anything about astronaut school, but I think you could do it.
Thanks.
Just remember to take your spacesuit.
I will not take off the spacesuit. One of 4 spacesuits.
Awesome. 1 of 4. Yeah, it's going to be a while. So apparently that was the other thing that I was going to add is that they are developing more spacesuits, but it's just delayed. Good. They're hoping to have more by 2025, apparently.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
We'll probably take a little bit of a break.
Yes.
But we will be back for season 3.
We will be back with more rambling, more mysteries, more entertainment, hopefully some laughs for you.
Fingers crossed.
We love it. You love it. We'll be back. Shoot us an email.
Yes. Keep in the loop. We might check them.
Oh, that's true. That's a strong maybe.
Strong maybe on checking our emails. But we'll be back. Thank you so much for listening. Catch you later.
This has been Series 2 of the Hoke Poke Pod. I'm Emily.
And I'm Erica.
We'll see you next time.
Hi, you've reached the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening, and if you like what you've heard, it would be fantastic if you could rate us or leave a review.
Or better yet, show us to some of your friends. Get the word out there about this spooky little podcast.
If you want to know more about us or this episode, you can visit our website, thehokepokepod.com.au.
We post updates, links, episodes, and any references we've mentioned, you'll be able to find them right there.
We'd like to say a huge thank you to Giamo Timble for the amazing graphics and art that he's made for the podcast, as well as our undying appreciation to Robert P. Kelly, our marvelous and ever-patient editor.
We love you, Rob.
And finally, if you'd like to contact us, you can send us an email at hokepokepod@gmail.com.
We'd love to hear from you.
Feedback, episode suggestions, whatever takes your fancy, we will be there.
Thank you so much for the support, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.